Hello, 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 and welcome to the cornfield. I'm Jamie Beaman. Oh boy. So I'm super excited today because not only is the person that is joining me a wonderful artist, an amazing online personality, a creative force of the present, future, and years to come, but is also my beloved niece, Isobel Beaman, or Izzy, as she goes by online and in her many guises out there in the internet sphere of fabulousness. I'm going to introduce you, Izzy, and then we'll get to it. We've actually been talking for like 15 minutes, and I was like,
It's
I need
true.
to press record. We need to talk.
Gotta save the good stuff.
Exactly. So Izzy is the youngest of my brother's three kids, all of them fabulous in their own individual ways. Izzy is close to my heart because she is my artist, actress, creative niece, and so we have that kind of special connection with each other. So many things to talk about with this amazing human, and I'm going to let Izzy plug all of her things. But I'm talking with Izzy today because, as I just said to her a few minutes ago, she is one of the only people of her generation. And God, even I cringe when I use the term of your generation or I am of the generation. I'm so sick of it, but it is what
I'm
it
one
is.
of the. I'm one of like the first. I'm the first iteration of Gen Z, or like one of the beginning
Well, that's
years.
what's interesting too. We'll talk about this. But anyway, she's here because I think I can have a reasonable conversation with her. And I think there are things also that that I can learn. And I think there are things that I might not be entirely 100% about. Not that I'm putting my niece on the spot to be the authority on her generation.
Put me on the spot.
God forbid. Put you on the spot. Okay,
Put
good.
me on the spot.
But I really, I love and respect this human in addition to the fact that I'm just, I'm a devoted gunkle. And so Izzy is here with me today and welcome to the cornfield. My goodness, I was just talking to you a minute ago about how you are one of the few people who reads every one of my essays.
Oh, don't say everyone, because I have missed a few. Missed a few.
Okay.
So,
well, and
I'm not the most dedicated fan, but I am a dedicated fan.
Well, you're very honest. I appreciate that.
Just don't quiz me.
I won't quiz you at all. But I do know that I say some saucy things on there, and I express my opinion, and occasionally some of my barbs are aimed towards members of your Gen Z world. It's interesting that you're the first year of Gen Z because I'm the first year of Gen X.
I think I'm either the first or the second, because I know that where it starts is where any generation starts is up for debate. But I want to say it's like 96, 97. So I'm 97 and here I am. And I know that Zoe, born in 95, is like the last of the millennials.
Okay, Zoe, for those who are listening, is the middle child. She's the Jan Brady of the family, and both of these beautiful young ladies have an older brother, Ben, who is almost 7 feet tall. Really,
it's true.
And we're all shrimps on the Beaman side, so clearly, some of that good, solid Irish DNA from my sister-in-law Patricia got in there. But he's toweringly tall.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, look, I always said that I would never be this person. I always said that I would never get to a certain age. And I would say things like that. And that I would talk about people who were young enough to be my children in the way that I was always talked to when I was in my teens and 20s by older people. That's very sort of condescending, patronizing thing.
But it's so easy. It's so, we're so annoying.
Not so annoying. I have some deep feelings about this, and I'm being very snarky about it. But, well, let me ask you the first question. Yeah. I'm going to get the snark out of the way, and then we'll get to some deeper stuff.
Sounds good.
How do you feel about pronouns, Izzy?
I think they're totally fine. I think if you want to be referred to in a certain way, and we are working in proximity, you are my coworker, you are my friend, you are my family member, there is some sort of significant relationship there, you want me to refer to you in a certain way, I will do my best to do that. I will absolutely do that. I understand the frustration in having this, what has become, I guess, I think what you call like a ritual of having to have everyone get into the what would you call it? Like, here is the normal procedure of everyone announce your pronouns. And I understand the frustration there, but I feel like if I, care about you, I'm absolutely going to respect your pronouns. I personally go by she, her. If you want to know that, I'm happy to tell you. I'm also someone who, cause I know, how much it how targeted the trans community is. So if they're like with characters, oh God, with people like Caitlyn Jenner, who I do not agree with a lot of her views, a lot of her beliefs, but I would not use that as a reason to misgender her out of spite.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I've seen this happen quite a bit with Dylan Mulvaney. I've seen a lot of sort of conservative commentary and misgendering Dylan. Yeah, the part of it, I don't think there's ever a reason to be cruel to people. Ever. Mm-hmm. One of the things, though, that I, with the whole lingo thing, and, we can get into what I see as the absurdities of the pronoun thing, which is the zim, zur, and the zimida and the fairy pronouns.
Sure.
I find that to be a little bit pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to write a one-act play of a group therapy session of people who use neopronouns 20 years from now, when they're middle-aged and they're wearing a muumuu and beads, and they're sitting in a circle still trying to be fairy pronouns. I personally think people need help when it gets to that point.
Don't we all?
I don't think it's
What's funny is, well, I guess not funny, but when being introduced to when I first entered the realm of the LGBTQ plus community back in middle school and in high school, and we would go to the youth empowerment summits held in San Francisco, which were it's a summit with a series of workshops for queer youth to teach them about sex ed and everything. I was introduced to the pronouns of sie, zim, zur before they, them for non-binary or gender fluid folk.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that was something that I was like, oh, this is a thing. And that's so to me, that is more original in the history than
now.
They,
when
them.
Was this? How long ago was this?
This was 2010 to 2012.
Okay, so we're talking. Wow. See, it's interesting to me because I've been trying to sort of track the whole non-binary thing, the concept
that's still
of
very
what
modern,
that is.
Isn't it? I have no concept because I was a child then.
But it's also further back than I thought. I was talking with John McWhorter on our podcast chat together about that. And I was like, to me, it's 2015 is about when we became aware that non-binary was a thing. And now you're talking even a few years before that. Granted, you're a Silicon Valley child. I think things are a little bit.
Yeah, we are
they're
very
ahead of the curve
woke
out there.
Here. Yeah. Which is a privilege and a curse to be in such a liberal part of the world, almost too liberal part of the world.
About that. You grew up there, so
absolutely. So, I grew up again, in middle school. This might be a slight digression, but I'm going to use it as an example. I helped start the Gay Straight Alliance at my middle school, which is now such a normal thing, which was like there was like support for the gay community was like really big, and I was there for like I was there. I remember when gay marriage was legalized, and everyone around me, it was very much an echo chamber of positivity and support. And of course, you get like a few people who were homophobic, transphobic, and against it. But because we are so surrounded by liberal thinkers, like-minded people. Yeah. It was like, that's insane. You are crazy. Like, who's homophobic anymore? And then you fly out of state and you go to like Mesa, Arizona or someplace, and it's like, oh, like y'all are they're just starting. I'm not attacking Mesa, Arizona. That was just a town I pulled out of my ass because I know they have open carry laws.
Disclaimer for all of our friends in Mesa, Arizona.
I visited Mesa once. Don't come for me. Or
but what you're saying is there is kind of a bubble. You're kind of living in a bubble.
Absolutely.
Of sort of a kind of progressive thought and language. I'm shocked about the Zism. I mean, I told you guys I was going to learn something today. Here's my thing with pronouns. Since we've digressed, we're going to digress all over the place because I think we share that in common.
We're following the dopamine.
Or the dope, as the case may be.
Are you holding?
No, it's too early in the day. It's too early in the day. But my thing with the pronouns is needing to tell other people what the term is for who they are and what they are. I am never going to refer to myself as cisgender. I'm not going to do that.
That's okay.
Mainly because I'm a man and I know what I am, and I'm actually fine with people assuming I'm a man. And to me, it's like, if you can't be the thing that you say that you are and that you firmly believe and you want it respected and recognized without having to tell me what I am against my will in order to maintain your construct, for want of a better word, I have problems with that. Because I didn't get a vote. And the assumption is because I'm part of the oppressor class or the majority, which I find hilarious, frankly, to be part of any majority. I find hilarious after the life I've led. But that thing of needing to tell people you're now this, like what they're doing to lesbians. And I know that you listened to my conversation with
yes, a non-man interested in other non-men.
Non-men attracted to non-men. And it's interesting to me, they're not telling gay men that we're non-women.
Yeah, and I think that's we can tie that to patriarchal roots. Misogyny, absolutely.
Yeah, well, it certainly feels misogynistic to me. I'm not sure.
Never mind. I'm not going to say what I'm going to say. Instead, I'm going to make a comment on what you said at the beginning. So, not wanting to be referred to as cisgender, how do you feel about straight people being referred to as heterosexual? Do you use that phrase?
Yeah, but see, I come from a different thought about sexual orientation. And this was something I spoke with Melody about at length. Sexual orientation does not seem to be high on the list when defining gender. Sexual orientation seems to be kind of an afterthought. And then from a lot of young folks, it is then sort of called a preference, which was what we got past. Yeah, it's like, and that anybody who's so old-fashioned as to only be gay or only be lesbian just needs to get with it and be pansexual and date a trans woman. It just seems
what if
we're not
you're not
cool
into that?
Enough. What if you're not? But
being pansexual is very cool. I can't deny it. It's very cool. But I have not experienced, I've not witnessed people pushing more like sexual attraction, sexual preferences onto people.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is my thought about myself as a gay man is I don't walk into a room. This is the same reason I don't want to walk into a room and tell people what my gender identity is. It's like, I'd like to lead with something else, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You know? And it would be like me walking in and going, hi, I'm a gay man. Like, but
well, here
in order
is
for
where
us to get, okay, go ahead.
This is where I find the difference. So coming in and introducing yourself with I'm a gay man, this is who I am interested in, I'm attracted to, not relevant. That is not relevant to the professional setting. So like if you're coming into like a project that you're starting on, it makes more sense to introduce with your pronouns because you are now working long term with these people and they need to know how to best make you feel comfortable in this space, feel seen, and like, how can I refer to you as opposed to, yes, James, you like dick?
I see.
No, Dick man, I see he is Dick man.
All right, now. That's all right. Anybody who knows me knows that I absolutely am Dick man. Absolutely. Why not? Proudly.
Me too.
Let that flag fly, honey. Let it fly.
I actually have a Dick plushie in my car. If you ride in my car, you have to hold it.
A Dick plushie. Nice.
That might actually be assault or harassment, making someone hold a Dick plushie in my car.
Well, you know, if that's going to traumatize you, honey, you know, you have bigger problems than that. No, I guess what I'm saying, I understand what you're saying. But maybe I'm being too facile or not facile enough in my description of what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is this. In order for us to get to a place where we convince the mainstream that we were not after your kids, that we were not pedophiles, that we were not mentally ill, that we wanted the same things that you want, i.e. marriage and family and home and all those things, part of that was defining ourselves not by the sex acts we get into, but defining being gay or being lesbian or being bi or, you know, trans is another issue, but it's a similar issue. That it is essential to who we are, that it's essential to the person that we are, that it's not a choice. That was a big one. Yeah. Trying to get people to understand that we don't choose to be gay. There are people out there who still think, well, when did you choose to be gay? Like, at what point? I didn't choose it any more than somebody who has gender dysphoria chose to have a brain wired for the other side of the binary. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my point about that is if it's presented in such a way that it's like something that you can just, you know, I think I said in my interview with Melody, I was like, people think, you know, one day you just wake up and you're like, I think I'll be a lesbian today. To me, it's being paired with this thing of, well, my pronouns are she, they, because sometimes I'm non-binary and sometimes I'm feeling more feminine. To me, that feels like I go to my closet and I pull out something to wear because I'm in a mood today. That undermines the reality, the truth of somebody else's identity that they fought real freaking hard to have given equal rights and legitimacy in this society to the point where we can now get married and have those kinds of rights. Huh?
How could you explain that again? How does someone wanting to be referred to?
If something is framed in a certain way, okay, and there's this craze, this mania for lingo, for if I'm going to be non-binary, then you've got to be cisgender, and then you also have to be this. And
we'll put a pin in that. I want to talk on that too.
To me, I wasn't invited to have a vote in that game. I didn't get a choice of playing pieces for that particular Snakes and Ladders set that you are operating. And this idea that your sexual orientation, for example, just as a little digression, as an example, this thing of the lesbian dating app that is creating controversy because it's requiring that the women who are on this lesbian dating app be open to dating trans women who identify as lesbians. you just said a minute ago that you're all about the dick. Well, if there's a dick there, why are you telling lesbians that they need to be okay? I mean, I don't mean to be crass, but sometimes you gotta kind of go there. Lesbians identify as women who love women. Mm-hmm. And now saying that, and nobody can come up with a decent definition of women now. How do you feel about that, being a woman? I don't know. Am I getting tangled, Isobel? I don't know.
I feel there are so many things here. Well, okay. I think that you can...
no, help me out.
Well, I think you can be in love with a woman and like someone who is feminine, someone who identifies as a woman, who lives her life as a woman, and it doesn't matter what the genitalia is. Because what if they were intersex or
yeah, but that's people always bring up intersex. That's like the eeniest, teeniest, beaniest, like it's a birth defect. It's like
I just watched a YouTube video where they were saying that the percentage of intersex folks is the same as the percentage of redheads in the world.
Is that right?
That's according to Jubilee. And we all know how accurate Jubilee is.
I don't know. I'll have to check it out.
But I think it is possible to be attracted to a woman or a presenting, whether that be butch or feminine. And I don't, because just because like trans women are on this dating app doesn't mean you have to date them. And it doesn't make you transphobic if you don't want to.
Well, that's the part of it that the activism wants to push. That if you in any way demur against this, you are a TERF. You are a transphobe. You're a bigot.
No.
But you hear this. You hear this. And you see this. I mean, I'm not on TikTok, darling, because I got enough. I live in New York City. I've got enough bedlam around me as it is.
And you need to spare your mental health. Do not go on TikTok.
I don't know how much I have left, but when you go on there, you sure as hell feel like you're going crazy because there's some nutty.
I go on there very small. Very small.
So So to just tie up this thing, because I really kind of, I poked the bull in a way, the zeitgeist with the pronoun thing. But just to tie this up, because I want to talk to you about your creative work and how all of this plays into that. I guess I love the looseness and the easiness that you have with maybe somebody's this, maybe somebody's that. It's a very je ne sais quoi, like a live and let live kind of an attitude, which I love.
At the end of the day, it's none of my business. Whatever, it's not even what tickles your peach. It's whatever stops you from killing yourself. Like, go ahead and do it. And who am I to say, like, oh, ho hum, who gives a shit?
So you're dating somebody, you're involved with somebody from the millennial generation. You're in the midst of this acting training, very, very liberal, genderqueer environment of progressiveness. And your boyfriend is calling you out on some of your, your attitudes, your fixed,
like irrational, definitely fixed beliefs that there is a right and wrong way to think things and to support people. And it just, like, he is very anti-label, which I totally get. And I understand why how that is seen as more confining than not. But I also, having grown up in my generation, I also know that labels create a sense of belonging. And
it's like
how people colors. Feel. It's, like when you feel so out of place and you don't know how to, like, you don't, how can I give an example of this? We live in a very, like, a sexually compulsive society. So if you don't have, like, any sex drive and you're in this society where you're supposed to, and you feel other and you feel wrong, it can feel comforting to be like, oh, this is asexuality and this is a real thing and I'm not broken. So that's like how I walk into it. And he just had very different views than me when it came to things like labels, when it came to body positivity, and when it came to saying the word gay and the F slur. And I actually had a problem with him using dyke for a very long time.
Really?
Oh yeah. I was like, don't say that around me. And we like could never have a conversation about it. But he was like, well, I went to college with a bunch of lesbians and we use dyke all the time. And it's like, cool, you're pulling the I have a black friend card. Like, I have a lesbian friend.
Ooh, wow.
And
I mean, that's an interesting thing because I find that to be a wibbly wobbly position. This thing of you're not allowed to say that. You're not entitled to say that or joke about that because you're not part of that oppressed group, and you can't assume that and appropriate that. And but then on the other side, there's this. I'm here to stand with my non-binary friend, and like you are assuming a right to something. Through alignment.
Like, yes? they need my help. They need my support. And like,
is that empowering at all? Like, I don't know, Izzy. Have you seen that?
It's not helpful. Not always.
Well, I'm not sure that it actually. Okay, all right. So, like, the second essay I wrote on the Substack called "Children of the Corn," where I explain why it's called the cornfield, Billy Mumby, Twilight Zone. You can look it up. But the Peter Boghossian video, did you watch this where he's doing street epistemology at Portland State and he has a placard so. Well, he does these street thought experiments where he posits he's dealing with provocative subject matter, and he has this sign that says there are only two genders, and then he asks people to stand on a and the social workers that came down and confronted him on behalf of the trans person who was so shattered by seeing this board that they had to go home. How is it helpful to that person, if such a person exists? How is it helpful to that person that they were sent home with the vapors and these people came down who had no skin in that game to try to shut this stuff down? Why not bring the trans person down, surround them with love and support, and let them challenge the question or challenge the experiment? I don't understand this. I am going to be the caretaker for this poor, fragile individual who had to go home. What do you think?
Well, I mean,
I don't think that's...
I think that we a lot of people assume that minority groups and targeted groups are fragile and weak and need protection, and they don't. But like in a, as I say, like as a white woman, my opinion really matters. But anyway,
yes.
But like the idea that something was triggering to a trans student, and they had a reaction, one way to support that person is not necessarily like, definitely don't like bring them to the person holding the sign and say, face your fears. Like that wouldn't be helpful either. But, if you like care for that person, like obviously if you're having a panic attack, get them to a safe place, have them
like
but
is
stable,
every,
and like
here's the thing with the triggering is every emotional reaction that you're ever to have in life, in a world where but you mentioned it before, you move out of that bubble and you've got to deal with the real world as tis. One of my big jokes with some of the gender, first of all, I just get very snarky when it comes to the whole genderqueer, like fashions. It's like, you're not the first guy with a beard to wear full beat and a asymmetrical dress and carry a clutch. The question is, are you going to be able to do that in the Piggly Wiggly in Montgomery, Alabama?
Well, no, ever. But like, I mean,
you know what I mean? You got to be out in the world. Yes.
Yeah.
So how does it help somebody? I'm not saying, I guess I want to sew this up so I don't divert us far away from the point that you were making that I want to get out there, which is, yeah, maybe that person isn't ready to be marched up into to Peter Boghossian's face and to challenge him. But on the other hand, is every triggering moment potentially like shattering, potentially mentally wounding to the point of needing medication? Like, how do you build up any reserves or resiliency against? Why is every moment curated to this point of needing to be explored and massaged? I mean, I managed to grow up a little gay kid in an environment where I was the only freaking one, or so I thought, under constant trauma and bullying and ostracization, and I still managed to grow up without needing somebody to hold my hand all the time.
Well, I don't think anyone can expect the world to change for you, and that's just unrealistic. But using trigger as like how it's supposed to be used, as in, oh, like I do have trauma in my past, and experiencing this is creating a physical reaction in me, and I am now emotionally unwell. Like, knowing that about yourself, you can now go through the world knowing how to avoid that. And yes, it is helpful if there are trigger warnings, but you can't expect that from everyone.
But that's where cognitive behavioral therapy helped me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I was able to see the way that my post-traumatic stress manifested itself and what triggered it, and how I was amplifying things and distorting them in my mind, because that's how I had developed my survival skills, or my way of. Sometimes you don't know where to put it. You know, when you're being abused by all and sundry around you, eventually you're going to ask yourself the question, well, maybe I deserve it. What did I do? You know what I mean? You're going to find a way to cope with it, and the only person that you have to talk to about it is yourself. So somehow you've got to make yourself, you know what I'm saying? Not to get into my therapy, but the point is, I think you're right. I think the reaction to a trigger moment is not always lie down, darling, and let's talk it through. You're not going to have the staff of social workers that you have at Portland State University in the, the LGBT Alliance. You know what I mean? You just are not. And this is my fear. And I get why your boyfriend doesn't like labels, because to me, it's like, well, what if your label changes? That means you're not going to be part of that group anymore. And then what is that going to do to you? And what is that going to do to your sense of self?
I see, again, like with the changing of labels, of sexuality, of gender expression. It's a personal, right? It's your personal identity. It's your personal life. So if you go through life and then, like, people should be allowed to change their minds.
Yes.
Is it annoying if you've been berated to call someone by this pronoun, and then all of a sudden they change their mind and you're like, oh my God, like whiplash, like, sure, but who cares? Again, whatever stops you from killing yourself.
I think a lot of, but I get that, although that's that default of the unaliving yourself, I find disturbing, but that's okay. I don't mind a little
Gen
darkness.
Z, we're
very
all
dark.
We're all suicidal.
Not a good thing. Not a good thing. I think, and part of the problem is this obsessiveness and this fear of exactly what you just said. Because Izzy, you're a creative artist, and I want to talk to people about. I want to turn people on to what you're doing creatively, because it is an example of how you can channel all the different facets of yourself as you find them and as you are inspired by them into creative work that's really very compelling and fun.
Thank you.
But not everybody has that point of view of, if people are getting all of their self-esteem and all of their sense of being held off the ledge by people feeding into and approving of and supporting and defending them and curating this identity that they've decided is the team they're on and the label they've chosen, even if you change your mind, that's a lot to give up. That's a lot to walk away from. And if you're particularly aligning yourself or spending your time around people who are very hard line about this stuff and who would cancel you or who would not welcome you into the fold if you changed your team color. Gosh, I mean, I agree with you. I think kids should be allowed to explore gender from early age. Wear the dress. You know, the boy can play Snow White this time in story hour. You know what I mean? Like, I get that. I think that kind of thing should be encouraged, but that's expression. It's not identity. Mm-hmm. And expression could lead to identity. Expression could be a subconscious outlet for, or a conscious outlet for what will become an identity. But I think that this is the problem. If you go to as I say, go to the altar too soon and commit to something that you feel you can't take back, what happens to you?
Like, what do you mean? Do you like, are we talking about,
I'm talking about saying, I am non-binary
gender
and I'm
affirming care and doing medical procedures when you're too young and all of a sudden you decide to be a woman again and you have no tits. Like, is that what you're talking about?
Well, not necessarily, but
because I feel like if it's just like, I'm going to identify as non-binary for
this many
7 years, like you go through life 7 years, everyone is on board, and then all of a sudden you change your mind. Like, you got to do what's best for you. And if your immediate friend group is going to be hurt by that, they're going to be hurt by that for their reasons. And if that means you have to leave that friend group behind, maybe you have to leave that friend group behind, because what are you going to do?
Part of your growth. Well, I don't know. And I think somebody who has less assurance in their being, that they can be malleable in their growth and their maturity as a person and change their sense of who they are and be okay with that and be okay with walking away from a friend group. I think that's great. I think if your entire sense of self is tied up in that, that's got to be a scary proposition. I also think politically, we do have an activism that makes an equivalency between being non-binary and being trans. And that is excluding the voices of actual trans people who've transitioned as being, I mean, when you hear Buck Angel being called a transphobe, there's something wrong. Somebody who transitioned 30 years ago and is saying, maybe Lupron for an 8-year-old isn't the greatest idea. You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah, those are deep waters, and neither one of us are part of that group. But
I know since we are cisgender, it's hard to.
Your sissy. I'm not your sissy.
No. Girl, it is the opposite of transgender. Just like heterosexual is the opposite of homosexual, it is the technical scientific term.
How can there be an opposite of transgender if trans encompasses every neopronoun and pronoun and if everything's trans, what you're doing is there's us and there's them. It's what's happening on the anti-racist side.
Oh yeah,
there's BIPOC and there's everyone else, which means all the white people. Never mind that there's so many ways of being white.
There are.
I mean, I don't know, girl. I
guess you gotta go down. What is the root word? What does trans mean? Like,
well,
what is the root?
Trans is supposed to mean going from this point to this point.
All right. So if you don't
like transportation.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess you can do that. You can go from, we're acknowledging the society and what is quote unquote normal.
Are you fighting me on this cisgender thing?
I am exploring the idea. I'm exploring.
Here's the point I'm making. But my point is, if we live in a free society, you should be given the choice of declaring your pronouns or not. And it shouldn't be. If you're going to welcome other people, because I could go through the whole pantomime and give my pronouns in the circle up on the first day and still be thinking in my head, and I'm not, people, still be thinking in my head, this is bullshit. Just because somebody does the special handshake doesn't mean that they mean it, and doesn't mean that you're safe, and doesn't mean that you're welcome. And to make that the thing, it is the result, I think, of being on the Twitter too much. For your generation, you've had that freaking phone in your face too much.
Then don't
that's the only way pronouns. You know. You can't hear a tone of voice online. You know what I mean? You don't know. You
cannot.
My point is, if we're in a free society, then you have the right to say what your pronouns are. I, as a person who's going to be a coworker and respectful of you, will use the pronouns to the best of my ability. And if I misgender, I will apologize. And whatever that is for you, because I respect you. But in return, I don't have to say my fucking pronouns.
Yes.
Why is that a problem, though, for some?
It shouldn't be.
Right. And I think it's about power. It's like, oh, well, who do you think you are that you've got, well, you've had all the power.
We're living in this society. We're living in a society where if you're not one, you're the other. You have to be the extreme. Like, oh, you want to support trans people? You have to do it to this extent.
Yeah.
And it's an unrealistic expectation, because again, what if you were like, you're a part of the queer community and you don't like labels,
right?
You don't want to conform, and those people exist. So it shouldn't, what I take issue with is for people who get frustrated with this practice and they use it as an excuse to be transphobic.
Got it.
They're like, I am so annoyed by having to walk on eggshells and say my pronouns, blah, blah, blah. Fuck this guy. Even, I don't care how he presents, I grew up with him, and now that he's 50 years old, he's going to be a woman. No, thank you. And it's like, this is part of a different issue.
I understand. That I understand. But see, this is what happens when you weaponize language.
Mm-hmm.
In a way. It really, and there are going to be people who think that way and don't verbalize it at all. There are going to be a lot of people like that who don't come out and say that, who are thinking it. A lot more people are silent than are outspoken in any direction on either side of the line. And so let me ask you something. As a creative artist in the midst of this, right? And with this, I think it's a wonderful, I know that I sound like a scold sometimes towards your peeps, your people, your generation, your tribe. But I think there's something aesthetically rich and really exciting and compelling about this idea of identity being a fluid thing and borrowing from the different facets of gender. And I mean, I was a female impersonator for almost 10 years. I mean, I
have
understand
you right there.
That.
There you are.
Yay!
You see, that's you as Marlena.
Early picture. Yeah. I mean, Marlena taught me about this. Marlena was like, she did it all first. She invented the name Marlena. Her name was Maria Magdalena. Talk about giving a child something to live up to. Good God,
Magdalena.
But it's like, but she made it. She knew how powerful it was to appear in a 1932 movie in a man's suit and kiss a woman. And that's how she was introduced to American audiences. So I get that. So how do you channel all this into your work? Talk a little bit about Jackalope Studio, because this is a production company you're a part of, and talk about the work that you're doing on your YouTube channel, because I think it's super fun.
Oh, absolutely. And I can't take credit for the YouTube channel. I'm just a content creator for it. But Jackalope Studio has they have their own website. They have a YouTube channel, Instagram accounts, TikTok accounts. We're really trying to spread our content. But it's Jackalope Studio is a full service entertainment production company specializing in visionary creative direction. And yes, I did pull that from the website, but it did sound natural, didn't it? Didn't it sound like I was just making that up?
No, that just rolled right off the tongue.
But we do a lot of different kind of content. A lot of it is creepy and a lot of it is weird. And we release projects for other folks. We've done music videos for people. We've released people's like short form content and short films, and we've done my music videos. So
what is the fascination with the with this old like 1960s horror movie aesthetic? There's these little shorts that are really creepy, like Vincent Price-ish old gothic horror.
Are you talking about The Unknowable? How it's very like Twilight Zone? Yes.
Yeah. Creepy.
Well, it's so. Oh my God, The Unknowable is amazing, and you can find all the episodes for the first season. They're very short on YouTube. They're like 2 to 3 minutes long. You can watch the entire thing in under an hour, and it's so trippy and it's hilarious. And I don't know if that like Kyle Cooper, who is the founder and main producer, creative director of Jackalope Studio, would do it more justice to describe like why he went in that direction. But it's so fun because he is a very big like Twin Peaks guy, Twilight Zone guy. That's okay. Let me tell you how I was introduced to Kyle Cooper. We went to college together. So he was getting his, he was in the graduate program for directing when I was doing undergrad in acting. And so, studying directing, he had the opportunity to, put on, shows within our season, in the theater department. And he was the blood bags guy. He perfected the art of blood spray on stage. Everyone, oh my God, he was the punk of the department. And that's just who he was. Always dark. He started becoming associated with a makeup look called the Kyle Cooper eye, which is just like raccoon, dead, goth. In every single one of his shows that had that aesthetic, that was just his aesthetic. And you can see how that goes into his work. Like he directed a bunch of great short films, Sing Cowboy Sing, Love and Kind. They have all of these. You can see them on our YouTube channel. They have all of these really dark themes to them. And it's very like raw people and uncomfortable. And I guess it was like, it's really his love of like Twin Peaks and the weirdness and the oddness.
There's definitely that quality. There's definitely that. I mean,
I have a mug from the Unknowable. You can get these on our shop because we have a shop now.
No, listen, you guys, this is really cool. I mean, this is what happens sometimes between collaborators, people who go to school together, people who come up together creatively. You've got an alignment with each other and you're making things, right? Talk about your tarot card readings. Like you've got this regular thing that you do on this YouTube channel, where you read tarot cards, and talk about how that came to be, because there's an interesting connection to our family with that.
Absolutely. So, I have always had an interest in the occult and witchcraft, very heavily influenced by my grandmother, your mother, Mickey Coburn, our Jewish witch high priestess. Do you want to know how this started? I remember because as a child, with all of my relatives being on the East Coast, during Christmas time, my mom is like, you got to get the presents for every single one of your aunts and uncles and your grandparents. And I'm like, I don't know what do they want? I see them once a year. And she recommended that I get a candle for Grams. And she was visiting us for Christmas that year, I believe. And I gave her the candle and she opens it and she looks at me and she goes, I can do magic with this. And I was like, what? You can? And we did this whole, she gave me, can I reach it while still being plugged in?
Yeah.
She gave me this poppet.
Isn't
she adorable? This is Mabel. And we did a whole little ritual. And she read tarot for me for the first time was with her, because she is really big into divination. And I got really into the occult. I actually joined a coven my junior year of high school, and we did what I like to call softcore necromancy. So we would get together almost on a weekly basis and sit around the Ouija board like it's the craft, and like,
cool. Yeah,
that's what we would do. And I brought.
Well, you know that your Grams was friends with the witches of Salem, Massachusetts.
Oh, I do know.
We grew up right across the bridge in Beverly, Mass, from Salem, which is, sort of like, the Disneyland of witchcraft. And
it's so fun.
Yeah, I mean, when I went away to school to Simon's Rock at 14, 15 years old, they did a special circle like around me with these, with burning incense and
a little blessing way.
Blessing me. So mote it be. Yes.
So mote it be.
So talk about your tarot card readings, because are these actual people that you're reading for, or what do you do?
So, okay, so long story short, let's bring it back around. Because I brought tarot throughout, college and my relationship with Kyle, it was a very obvious, do you want to do card readings as a content creator, and which is very popular now anyway on TikTok and Instagram. There are a lot of different flavors of tarot readings that you can find scrolling through videos. And ours is purely entertainment purposes only. We ask for questions. We'll create posts, comment your questions. And it's always a real reading each time. And
it's just in the moment.
It's completely improvised. Aside from the question that I'm going to answer, I don't script anything. Which actually reminds me, I have 2 videos that I need to edit that I'm really behind on. But it's super fun, and I try to dress as goth as possible, which is not very goth for me.
You have this really interesting persona. I've watched a few of them, and you're very flamboyant and very kind of, but it doesn't feel like a put on. But I know you, and it's like another part of your personality coming out.
It's a lot like mask work, if we want to get into the theater terminology, where you put on the outfit, and as Dolly Levi once said, you feel as fine as you look, and it's a lot easier. It just feels so natural that in this eye makeup and with this big hair, this is how we're going to come out. So in a way, it is me. It's a way that I can be that part of me.
Yes.
And it comes out more naturally because I'm dressed up like a character. But in reality, if I would dress goth every day if I had the wardrobe for it. I mean, this is as close as I get. It's The Cure.
Yeah, well, you're wearing a T-shirt of The Cure. It's like you were saying your boyfriend was born in '89. I graduated college in '87, so and The Cure was very much on the playlist. We didn't have playlists yet, but so back in the olden days. But it's interesting to me because you're completing. Have you completed your degree yet? Because this is something. Let's brag. Okay. While most of us were watching Netflix and eating ice cream during COVID, this one over here perfected her piano playing skills, wrote her own songs, which you can see the music videos of. I'm going to have links in the description. Worked on your voice with your voice teacher, etc. And you now have completed your master's degree from Berklee School of Music. So talk about that and what you're going to do with it.
Oh, God, what am I going to do with it? Well, the whole reason that I started was just the pursuit of knowledge. Because one of my hobbies during the pandemic, during 2020, that original lockdown, was I started to write music, which was never something that I felt confident doing, that I felt that I was able to do. So I was writing music, I was playing the piano, I was accompanying myself, and I was taking guitar lessons with one of the front men of one of my favorite bands at the time, Swimmers, and like making music was what I wanted to do. And I didn't really know how. And my brother, who was really into the SoundCloud scene, he had his own bedroom set up. It was very Phineas and Phineas and Billie Eilish. And he was like, come over, we'll record an EP and we'll put it up on SoundCloud. And it was through like that process that I was like, okay, I want to learn more about the business. But I don't want to ask anybody about it because I can never ask for help. Like, I'm very anti ask for help. Do you know how many times my mother was like, just call your grandmother and work on your monologue. Call your uncle. And I'm just like, no, I have to do it myself, which is like so stupid. It's so stupid because when you have so many resources,
there is to everything, there is a season. I say this all the time. There is a time in your life where you have to be bold like that. You have to say, I'm going to do it my way. I did it when I was your age. I did Marlene Dietrich. I'm like, what the hell am I doing at 27 years old playing this like
being fabulous
German movie star? Yeah, but you know, you've got to follow your own star. But you reached a point where you really wanted to know the nuts and bolts. And you studied what? Music business?
Music business. There was a joint program, a wonderful online program with Southern New Hampshire University and Berklee College of Music. And they sort of took turns doing here's foundational business and here's music industry specific business. And as I was starting that was when Kyle came in and was like, hey, you recorded a bunch of songs. What are you going to do with these? Do you want to do a music video with those? And that was the beginning of Jackalope Studio, which created this wonderful opportunity where what I was learning, I was able to put into practice in real time. Like I helped him write the business plan for it because I knew how to write a business plan. It was really fun.
So cool. And you have to teach me.
I'll send you the template.
I have no plan. I'm just throwing stuff against the wall.
But like, yeah, I was able to like discuss like marketing and things and have an idea. And when I completed my degree in April, and at that point, what became the logical next step for me was to learn more about entertainment law. And this has been I'd love for it to make me a more valuable asset to whatever, like industry company I become a part of. Cause now what's paying my bills is I'm a tasting room associate at a winery. If you want to talk wine, we can be assholes together.
There's a Fred Leibowitz quote about that. It's like big people talk about books and small people talk about wine or something like that. It's much funnier than that. But
there are plenty of small people in the tasting room trying to talk about wine. Let me tell you.
Yeah, talk to me about the tannins and the.
I can't take myself seriously, even when I'm like genuinely like, tell me about this wine. Whenever I go out, I'm like, I sound like a pretentious piece of shit.
It's that acting training.
That is just what the industry is. But anyway, it's always been me wanting to expand my knowledge on something that I know nothing about. Was master's degree, was paralegal certificate program, which I just started, and I'm learning all of the. Yeah, it's kind of boring right now, but foundational stuff is always boring.
I think it's really great. I say this a lot, when I'm talking about my generation, since we're coming full circle and almost to the end of our time with this whole Gen X, Gen Z meeting of the generations. I don't know what that is, but we had to go out and seek out our knowledge. Mm-hmm. Like we grew up surrounded by books. You can ask your dad. Our parents were self-taught, self-learned people, especially your grandfather. He grew up on a farm. I mean, he was a very cultivated individual, quite prominent in the tarot card industry himself, and I'll include that in our description. But, we had to go to the library and look it up, and that book would lead us to another book, and we'd learn the card catalog, and we sought it out.
Knowledge,
and I think you're rather unusual in that. For folks your age, I think things are too easy. I think it's too much at your fingertips. And I think the fact that you want to go and really dig in and learn from the ground up is admirable. Do you think you're different?
I'm different. I read books for fun.
I'm just saying.
I think it's easy and it's not for my generation. I think because of social media and the way that people portray themselves, and I can see the lives of celebrities. I can see the lives of those in the entertainment industry. It paints a picture without all of the hard, complicated layers to it, because the entertainment industry that I was preparing for in college was different than what I experienced going to like my first SAG gig. Like I was in a Taylor Swift music video and all of the extras were Instagram models. And I would go to be extras on sets and no one had a theater education. And and there was a disconnect there, and there was suddenly a lack of understanding of what the business was really about. And it's about let me tell you what the entertainment industry is about.
Please tell me. I've been in it for 33 years and I still can't figure it out.
But like the heavy emphasis on a social media following.
Yeah, that's new.
Is so huge now, where you have to prove that you can bring an audience to the table. How many followers do you have? And it's true for actors, and it's true for musicians. And suddenly you have to be an expert in, don't know if you could hear that, but that was my tummy growling. Suddenly you have to be really good at marketing yourself, at
that's
making
good that
content.
You learn those skills.
And it's not for everyone. And I think it's not what people expect. And they think like, I can write music and put it out on Spotify. And
people think it's going to be easier than it is, and that it doesn't really take that cultivation, not just of building a following or building an audience, or that part of it is a whole other thing that I'm still trying to just tiptoe my way into that. But it is about having a cohesive, very specific, very vibrant, very grabbing persona and aesthetic and message and voice. Mm-hmm. And that's not everybody has that, right?
No. And I think with what was the point I was trying to make?
Sorry, before I interrupted you.
No, I feel like business, because I will like digress and not even get to my point.
Yeah.
But I feel like we see what is possible in the entertainment industry without knowing the details of it, and it's easy to get trapped in contracts or situations that like you just don't. You need to. How do I words?
You need to know how everything. You need to take the engine apart, or have somebody working with you, which I assume, is
know
where
the
you're
business
headed.
Part. Know the industry
to facilitate that. Yeah, so that you can advocate.
Because it's not
because not all creative people are going to be able to wrap their brains. I know I can't wrap my brain around that stuff. I admire you for doing that.
I think it's intentionally incomprehensible. I think it's let's handicap these artists so that they don't know what they're getting into, and it is a goal of mine to be able to use my education to help others navigate what is an industry. It's not all creation. If you're wanting to make money from it, you have to realize that it is an industry. You must be a marketable product. What is that product? What is your audience? And how can you think of it this way while still, while not like becoming disenchanted or dispassioned? If that is that a word?
Show business, not show friends. We always used to say, it's. And so it's interesting, and to wrap up, there's so much more we could say, and I don't get to see you or speak to you often enough. But I think that there's common ground here, and I think I understand now, and I'm going to say this, and I know things now, many wonderful things. That was a Sondheim reference for y'all.
Rest in peace.
May he rest. Well, his music, I mean, I'm directing a Sondheim show right now. It's just, it's such rich, wonderful material. So great.
He is. Oh my God.
Yeah. But this thing of labels and this thing of language and this thing of identifiers, self-identifiers, and who you're marketing to, all of it's going to come into play for you. And I feel like there is a creative, expressive, very potent opportunity in all of this sociocultural tangle that is very rich and has a lot of possibility. Where do you see yourself going with it? Because I feel like that's the way you be strong for other people. Without infantilizing people, you go, I can do that. Like, be an example. Is that where you feel like you're going? Or do you feel like you're going to pull people up with you from the creative world that you're in?
I would rather pull people up and help other people instead of being an example or an inspiration. I think I would rather work behind the scenes for companies like Jackalope Studio, for independent record services companies or labels, in a way that I can help facilitate other artists to achieve their creative dreams with full autonomy, with full creative control, and safe environments, be that like sexuality, gender safe, or be it creative
racially
safe, like
safe.
whatever.
Yeah.
Racially safe. Yes. Sure. Oh God. Here I am, white woman, just forgetting the.
No, that's not that. That's not that. And I think it's interesting is like, we can't include everybody at all times. And, I made a joke with Melody Rachel, who I just think she's got a lot on the ball. I think you two would really, really get along great. She's very cool. But
would she be okay that I'm a feminist?
I don't know. You'll have to ask her yourself, But, my thing with it is like, you're not going to get invited to every party.
No.
You're not going to fit in every group. And not every group is going to bend itself into a pretzel to make space for you that feels right in the way that you want it to feel right. And I think what's interesting about you, Izzy, is you are a content creator. You are an example, whether you like it or not, because you're out there bringing tarot cards and writing songs and performing your very, very moving and very provocative and very incredible, powerful material of your own. That's just, you're going to be an example, whether you like it or not. But I think that thing of understanding the power of the internet, understanding what it means to be on social media and how to harness that for people in a way that does give them that autonomy and doesn't get them like Dylan Mulvaney.
It is a tool.
Had 8 million TikTok followers, and they thought, well, she's got 8 million TikTok followers. Let's throw her on Bud Light, and made her life a living hell. As a result, it's like, right?
Capitalism, let's make money off of queer people.
So what I'm saying to you is you're being a different approach, a different way to navigate that very cutthroat, hard-line, dispassionate business.
Well, here's a perspective. I don't have 8 million followers. I don't even have 600 followers. Who knows what it'll look like if Jackalope Studio Tarot takes off to that degree when we're interacting with more accounts and we are more visible. Right. Will I change? Will I have to in order to maintain that? Is it worth maintaining? Will I lose some autonomy? I don't know, because right now I'm in a beginning stage and I can really do whatever the fuck I want. And who knows?
And this is the time to do it, isn't it? Because once you hit on the thing, because that's the other great thing about the internet, is that it moves at the speed of light. I mean, it's also everything has a light and a dark. But I mean, that you hit on the right thing, you and Kyle or whatever other collaborator you bring into your fold, you hit on the thing that just goes viral and goes crazy. I'm sorry for that smacking into I keep forgetting there's a microphone here. Never mind.
We'll use that as the sound test.
What you're doing now is preparing you for that. And I think that, there is a thing about labeling yourself, expressing yourself, declaring yourself to be part of this particular aesthetic or this particular group or this set of identity markers, but having an inner fortitude, having a core of value. I think that's where we're getting off the train too much, is this thing of what are my values? My human values.
And I know from personal experience that creating, like identifying my own values, I didn't start doing that until I was in my 20s. Right. Because like from the outside, I'm sure it looks like I was a trendsetter and independent, like, wild out there middle schooler doing my own thing since I walked out of my mom's womb. But I truly don't feel like I've fully owned myself or became my own person or felt confident in my opinions, my point of view, my values until I've been like 4 years into therapy, reading a bunch of books, listening to a bunch of different perspectives. Like,
we have a word for that. It's called maturity. Which isn't the same as growing up, because I still obviously have not grown up. Clearly have not grown up. But maturity, yeah.
I mean, growing old is mandatory, but growing up is optional.
Well, I'm living proof of that, God knows. And I hope that I will always be that way because it keeps you in a place of wonder.
Yes.
And curiosity, which I think is, somebody asked me once, what's the most the vital quality an actor must have? And mine is curiosity. You have to be in a place of the right kind of humility, humbleness, to where you can go, what is this? What is this thing? And who can share this with me, and who can illuminate this for me? Or if you're an independent spirit like you clearly are, Izzy, how do I investigate this in a way that I can unravel it for myself? Take that Rubik's Cube and make it the way I find my way to completion. With Isobel Beaman, I admire and respect you as an artist, and I love you as a niece and a part of my mishpucha. And tell people where they can see your work and the work of Kyle and Jackalope Studio.
Absolutely. Find us online on Instagram. There's Jackalope Studio, Jackalope Studio Tarot, Jackalope Studio Drag, Jackalope Studio TV. We have a YouTube channel. Check out The Unknowable. Check out our Patreon if you want to support the content that we make. If you see it and you like it and you want to be a part of the community, definitely find us on Patreon under Jackalope Studio. We will create the fucking rabbit hole together. And you can find my music on Spotify. I have 2 singles out. We've got Feeling Human, and we also have Glass of Water, both with corresponding music videos online on YouTube, again under the Jackalope Studio account on the channel.
Yes, and these songs are gorgeous, and one of them is very dear to me now because Izzy wrote this song about her grams. Mm-hmm. And sang it at her memorial quite bravely and quite beautifully. And I don't think I could have done that. So God bless. Izzy, just keep making things, as we invoked Mr. Sondheim earlier, give us more to see.
I'll try.
Just keep making things and inspiring people. And folks, hitch your wagon to this star. She just, she wants to be the wind beneath your wings, and seek her and Kyle out. They're making really cool content, and There's plenty more to come where that came from. Listen, I think there's hope for the Gen Zers and the Gen Xers to find a way not to always be butting heads. I think
and that bridge will be music.
I think so. Fran Lebowitz, just to leave us with a Fran Lebowitz, she says the most important artists in any culture are musicians and chefs, because their work is connected with our lives and with moments in our life that we will always treasure.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Love you.
I love you, Uncle Jamie. Thank you for the nepotism guest star.
You bet. I couldn't think of a better representative of your of your generation to talk to and to ask questions. And you really did teach me some stuff today. And I think maybe we're all getting a little more tense and upset about things than sometimes we need to.
It's easy to be upset, you know. It's really hard to be
uncomfortable. It feels good too, doesn't it? If you're a drama queen.
Yes.
So from us drama queens to you, thank you so much for joining me again on the Cornfield. And stay tuned, stay strong. Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.